The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're struggling, please seek help from a licensed mental health professional. If you are in a crisis or think you may be in danger, please contact emergency services or a crisis line in your area. Please take care of yourself while listening.
Welcome back to Northern Echoes, The Journey, and we are a journeyman. Gil Moore from Triumph Metalworks, just extraordinary gentleman, giving the gift of music, and Gil's music uplifts, especially the sports anthems. That's all I'm hearing now. My French-Canadian wife is singing Lay It on the Line nightly now.
Apparently we're a hockey band.
Yeah!
Who knew?
Well, no, it's the anthem. And, you know, it wasn't just the message behind the music. Magic power. Right? Lay it on the line. Like that uplifting message where, you know, in our era back then was needed because of the geopolitical situation. We're in the same kind of situation now. And you were able to bring that music to hold up mental health. For a populace and to drive people onwards. Must feel good.
Yeah, it does, Mark. And it's kind of like it's kind of gradually, suddenly with these lyrics, because when we were doing the songs in the first place, we were just kids and we were just trying to make music, and the significance of the lyrics really takes place over decades, and where we've landed right now is, it's a really nice place that we feel really great about. We really do. Because you'd like to feel like you did something a little more than just sell some tickets and have some good times. The fact that there might be a residual benefit of positivity and the unity that music can bring on in a group of people, especially in the environment that we're in now, really has been a very nice thing for all three of us.
Yeah, it's you get to a certain age in your life where you kind of go, well, that was cool, that was great, that was fun. Well, what did I leave? You know what I mean? Like, have I kind of left it better than I found it? And in a full circle kind of way, you just described it. Yeah,
the funny thing is, I mean, I guess there was in our recent documentary, there was a funny crack that they said, well, Triumph was the band in white in the era of dirtbags, which was a funny remark. And by no means do I think the bands that we were out there with at the time were dirtbags or anything. Is a funny remark. But I guess I'll say this, because now when we're looking at the songs that seem to have impact, it seems, and on the Triumph side of the ledger, seems to be these positive lyrics like the Follow Your Hearts, the Never Surrenders, the Fight the Good Fights, the Hold On. We just did Music Monday, of course, which was, we had 200,000 plus kids last Monday singing Hold On. And it was an unbelievable experience. Those kids in choirs pumping out those lyrics. And I'm listening to these lyrics like hey, when I was sitting beside the drums playing all this, I was just trying to keep the beat and, not lose one and not get fired by the other two guys in my band. Like, Gil, get out of here. But when I'm listening to kids in a choir singing the song and I'm just in the audience, it's just a whole crazy different experience that's been really near and dear to me. And I know Mike and Rick feel exactly the same way, no kidding aside.
Yeah, it's heartstrings. Right? It's like that, that music came from the soul in that collaboration of the three of you, right? And at that time, it probably wasn't, it was great, it was awesome, but the euphoria and the swing around of that circle coming back at you now is like, when I hear Fight the Good Fight, I'm like, yes, we needed this today. And I was the same way 40 years ago, 30 years ago. So, you've given us the gift of music that will live forever, and that's a pretty cool thing, man.
Well, we have really reflected on some of these things. The lyrics to Hold On, like Rick wrote those lyrics a long time ago, and of course I don't know if Mike feels the same way, but as a drummer, you're always looking at the rhythm of a song. So, you're not really focused on the lyrics when you're learning it and you're trying to figure out how to perform it and record it and so on. So it's nice to be on the other side of the equation now where, I'm hearing it with those choirs and so on, and suddenly I am understanding some of the reasons why people are moved by some of the lyrics and why they've had some of the reactions that they've had. And of course, seeing or hearing or a combination of activities on social media. I'm not really a social media guy by any means, but our management team and our studio team and our school, and they're all on social media. So a lot of this still feeds back, and it's kind of nice to hear those comments. Like, I'm not going to be out there on social media anytime soon, but I kind of like being in the audience in and around Metalworks and Triumph and Music for Mental Health and all the projects we're working on with SoundsUnite.
Yeah, so you've got an app now that you've developed, right? And tell us a little bit more about the app.
Well, 8 years we've got in, and SoundsUnite was originally nothing more than a technical exercise. And you being in the business, you would know this. So we were looking to cloud synchronize audio files, which tend to be bulky, do away with things like WeTransfer and Dropbox and clunky things like that, and have a slick way for writers and publishers to be able to do the same thing that lawyers can do with Excel files or Word files, thanks to Microsoft 365. Microsoft 365 became early stage partners for SoundsUnite because we were technical. We had no idea we were going into education and not to mention into music wellness. But how those pivots happened over the 8 years, the first thing was we thought we have a great set of tools, but without giving kids, which was our primary target, was young people, without giving them instruction, without giving them education, it would be like handing a slide rule, and a drafting board and saying, go build a building as an architect, without giving, the learning sequences necessary in so many different areas of a curriculum that would support that. So we thought, well, heck, we've got a school. Why don't we just do that? Yeah. And the developers, being very smart people, were able to amalgamate those two wishes within the app. Little did we know we were going to hit COVID and the decline in mental health. And then once we had music learning, and I put forth the idea that we should have music wellness and mental health resources on there. And initially, the development team scratched their head, and I said, guys, think of it this way. Our learning center is the AM radio. We're now going to add FM, but they're just different channels or different frequencies. And so they did a magnificent job of that. I reached out to Dr. Jonathan Parker, an American who had helped me with some tough times, actually, after my father passed away, because he was my best friend. I was an only child. And I reached out to him, and I explained what I was doing, and I thought, first of all, it's amazing he was still alive. Secondly, will he understand? He probably has no idea who I am. And I said, Dr. Parker, 35 years ago, you did me the biggest favor anyone's ever done. And I have this, I tried to describe it as quickly as I could.
This monster I'm trying to...
And I said, could you possibly share some of your content that you're sharing publicly, because you're a master? And I told him I was most interested in anti-anxiety and, how to calm the mind, stress relief, all of those things. And he very, very kindly became one of our content partners. And then we got some other great partners like Kids Help Phone came on board and so on. So we've realized now, like, as the ball sort of bounced down the fairway and ricocheted around a little bit, we're kind of in the center of the fairway with learning and mental health resources at the same time. So it is truly like a AM, FM radio or, something along those lines.
Yeah, it's and it's needed more now than ever for the youth, right? So it's a very collaborative space, right? So you can, collaborate and create music, on this space, correct? Correct.
Yes, because this is back to the beginning of the app, before it was about learning and before it was about music for wellness. The technical aspect of it is it put a little, we'll call it a mini Pro Tools version or a digital audio workstation, a DAW, on a mobile device of any kind. So the cheapest, burner Android phone, right up to the magnificent, fancy iPhone 16, and everything in between. So what we realized is we were putting these tools in the hands of some very remote communities and some very marginalized groups. And that was by design, that we wanted to make it so that no one would be denied music education. And now that we have the wellness component on there, we feel the very same way about that. Then our last pivot, Mark, was to become a charity, which through some very, very great luck and some great friends of mine, namely Dr. Terry Miosi, who has been with me on this from the beginning, we were able to become a registered charity in Canada quite quickly, which surprised everyone, including myself. Yeah. And now we feel like we can provide all these resources to all Canadians for free, and through all the channels of great organizations like the Awesome Music Project, through Baycrest to the dementia patients. Yeah. We're working with the Live Lab at McMaster University to try and see if we can collaborate on some of the research aspects and so on. And we've the Peel's Children's Aid, who's here today. We've been partnering with them. I've been to the Trailblazer Center numerous times, and we're working on trying to set a programming model up there. So Trailblazer, as an example, and this will illustrate how the app works, so they have 150 kids approximately that would be in the Trailblazer Youth Center at any one time, and it's magnificent. If you haven't been there, you should visit it.
I'm definitely going.
However, they probably got 10,000 clients. And those kids may come to the Trailblazer Center once in a while, but for most of the time, they're living with their parents or with supportive individuals. And so what happens with SoundsUnite, of course, is they could be working on songs or communicating, just like over FaceTime on iPhone. We have video chat built right in. So they can be collaborating with someone. They can be, 50 yards away, 50 miles away, 500 miles away. It doesn't matter. As long as they have an internet connection, they can be working on songs and working on music and collaborating.
Yeah, it's they talk about that global community, and I think you've harnessed the power of social media and creativity and psychological support. And I don't call it mental challenges. I call it mind challenges, right? Mm-hmm. We have to keep the mind active and healthy as much as we have to keep the rest of the body healthy, right? So the mind needs to be able to be healthy, and music is a healer, right? It's a creative force that, once you light the fire on it, you never know where it's going to go. And look where that has come full circle with you and your bandmates, right? So that's the utopia of all this, all these awesome music projects all the way.
Yeah, I never saw it coming, but the last 8 years developing SoundsUnite, it's taught me a lot about music and the purpose of music and what it can really mean to a community, to all communities, if it's used. I mean, with all the problems that we're having with just people getting along, and then the terrible wars we're seeing across the world, and yet the one thing that does unite people is music. And I think it gets right back, if I can say this as a drummer, I think a lot of it comes back to the rhythm, and that this is the most fundamental element, I'll call it. It's the most fundamental element of all music. And I think it's in our DNA. I've come to believe that as the human beings that we've become, we're being, when we were evolving, that the rhythm was perhaps the first element of music with different tones, of course, and different cadences, but nonetheless, perhaps the first element. I can't prove that. This is just a drummer's theory.
But we know that. Right? we know that we knew that science. We knew that music motivated us, soothed us, healed us. Now through this type of activity over here, it proves it. Science is proving it, right? And back to your point about the drum beat. Well, the drum beat is just a mimic of the heartbeat, right? So there's a correlation there that has been around since time immemorial, right? So it's not, there's a magic power in the music.
I really truly believe that, Mark. Yeah. And I feel like, the bright minds at McMaster in the Live Lab are proving that. They have a dance facility within the lab, and when I toured it, I said, well, why would you have dancing? And then I felt stupid for asking the question, because once I realized, and they had the skull caps on the dancers, and they're really seeing what is it that you know what it explains? If you've been at a wedding and the DJ is trying to get everyone up on the floor, why is it that he always goes for one or two key songs, like Celebration,
there's
for
givers.
example?
And
when you listen to that rhythm, and even if you're the world's worst dancer, which is me, I'm even tempted. I look at my wife and I go, well, I know I'll probably step all over your feet, but what do you think? And it's irresistible, that rhythm. And but what is it about that rhythm that makes it so irresistible? And I think it tells us something in the same way that the other, like a slower cadence, or something, a rhythm that doesn't have that what I'll call slippery grace note feel that drummers love, from the old days of the great blues drummers. What is that? And maybe you look at something, like We Are the Champions, that kind of thing, which is very, very slow, very, very kind of a 4/4 kind of.
4/4.
Yeah.
Simple.
What we always called as drummers, 4 on the floor.
Yeah.
And it's now I'm listening to these things with different ears on, trying to figure out, what is it about these things? Like, why was I drawn to the blues, for example, which has its own rhythmic style, aside from all the, the lyrical style, aside from everything else that it.
Yeah, but it's a rhythm section. The blues is the rhythm.
Yeah.
It hones in on that rhythm section, bass and drums, right? That's it. That's your rhythm section, and the two of them are a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think that we're going to learn a lot more about rhythm and about everything to do with tone, everything to do with frequency, everything to do with melody, harmony, all of these various elements that make music what it is. But it's not that hard to prove it, even without empirical data. So I had someone challenge me on that. And I said, well, okay, two different things. Like when you go into the gym and you're listening to A Whole Lotta Rosie by AC/DC, you're doing that for a reason, because you think you're going to do a better job on the, the bench press or whatever it is. And when I frequently in the foyer of my house, I have a Steinway piano with a player system on it that plays Vladimir Horowitz to a T. If I do say so, it's a remarkable device. And if I ever feel stressed, I will actually, it's carpeted, I'll actually lay on the floor underneath the piano and just listen to Vladimir Horowitz's beautiful tones on the piano. And that has a completely different effect than listening to AC/DC in the gym. So something as crazy as what I just said, it still proves a point. The effect of music, based on the rhythm, lyric, intensity, and all of the rest of it, means there's a lot of different things that are going on in our brain, and they're all great for different reasons. They all have different impacts for different reasons, and it's a great frontier that we're now exploring.
Yeah, and it seems it's been a little late coming, right? It was like, okay, so when they said science is now supporting the philosophy that music is healthy for you, I'm like, duh. Like I knew that.
Yeah.
Like,
we knew it without knowing it.
Yeah,
we knew it, we couldn't prove it. We knew it, we
Yeah.
didn't think about it too much. And then suddenly a few decades fly by and you go, oh, that's what it was all about.
Yeah, and we needed that, though. We
Yeah.
needed the validation.
Yeah.
Right? So we really needed the validation for society to provide the accreditation of what music can do in a health environment, right? So going back to Alzheimer's and end-of-life scenarios and those types of therapies that are going on there now, right? It's a full circle of trying to keep that brain active and those endorphins happy. Right, so it's very powerful. Like music is so powerful.
My introduction to Alzheimer's disease was at the hands of Dr. Alison Secular, who is the chief neuroscientist at Baycrest, and is also part of the McMaster University Department of Science and the Live Lab that's there. And Dr. Secular, I was doing a fundraiser for Baycrest at Metalworks, and she approached me after the fundraiser and said, what was that? Because they interviewed me on stage. She said, what was that SoundsUnite you were talking about? It sounds pretty interesting. I'd like to use that with my dementia patients. Could I do that? And I said, well, absolutely. I said, I'm not exactly sure how you're going to use it, but let's find out. And that started a great relationship. And I've been up there to visit, more than once, and seeing the great work that they do at Baycrest, and seeing that, we can really work music as a very powerful medicine in that area, in the brain disease area. And I've subsequently met a young lady who is a fantastic talent, Taylor Curta, who I met many years ago through the Canada's Walk of Fame organization. She was an inaugural winner of their emerging musician program, and she's now a PhD candidate in this area. So she has multiple degrees related to community music and music for mental health, and her thesis, amazingly, is that she's working on is songwriting for Alzheimer's patients. And she does this phenomenal demonstration of it that actually is a real case example of a woman who, was, well, I don't know how to write songs. I don't know what I would do or what I would say. And she actually coaxes her and encourages her and just has a dialogue with her. And she's there just like we are, facing each other with a guitar. And before you know it, it's like, well, you've never written a song, but if you wanted to, like, what would your favorite subject be? She says, well, the most important thing to me is my grandchildren. Oh, how many grandchildren do you have? And then what are their names? And then before you know it, she's picked one, Bobby or Terry or whatever, and she's creating rhyming couplets off the name. And the next thing you know, Grandma is contributing ideas to it and going, well, what if we said this? And the next thing you know, back and forth with the guitar, just a little encouragement. She ended up with 3 songs for 3 grandchildren. And it was all done in a matter of a few hours. And you could just see her, beaming in this video. It was just utterly incredible what Taylor did. And so anyway, I guess I'm rambling on and on. No. Mark.
This is perfect. This is the power of music and what it does. It's a lifelong power that goes through you, and it doesn't leave you if you've got it in you. It remains dormant for a lot of people. Like in youth, in adolescence, it's very highly active. But when we get into the business world and family and mortgages, and it dormants out for a lot of people. I'm not going to say that's me. It wasn't me. But it kind of, people put it on the back burner. But they come back to it later in life for a resurgence, whether it's to remember good times, get tuned to new music and find out what that is, but just to feel that biological feeling again when it comes back. And I've heard scenarios, much like you described that elderly lady writing her 3 songs about her grandchildren. I've heard people writing songs that they've wanted to pass on to their close people after their passing, right? So they would write a song with a therapist like that and then pass it on after they would pass to somebody that they were afraid to tell them a story or afraid to tell them what their thoughts were before they left this plane. So it's really a magical journey of what you can do and where it can go.
Yeah, it's like for me, as I said, I just can reflect back to trying to learn to play drums. And, my very first set of drums I mowed grass all summer to save up for them. And they weren't very good, my first set. Then my dad helped me at good old Long and McQuaid, who are here supporting. I love Long and McQuaid. I got my first set of pro drums there. And you never expect that this is where your music journey takes you, because I feel like with SoundsUnite, to me, it's kind of like starting Triumph all over again. It's like a new, okay, we got to knock the door down somehow and trying to figure out, what's the key to doing that. But the outcome here is, it's so exciting because of the, some of the brilliant people that I end up working with, and some of the information that then I then find out about. And to your point, we didn't know. We had a suspicion, we didn't know. Now the empirical data is being developed by scientists, and we're really realizing, hey, music's got a big purpose. I have a very good friend in Germany who consults with music universities and colleges throughout the world, and he predicted to me this summer when he came to visit, when he was coming through Canada with his family, that the therapeutic and medicinal value of music would be greater than the commercial value of music in a decade, which was fascinating.
Pretty profound statement.
Very profound. And I said, I challenged him a bit. His name is Mirek Vanna. He's a very, very smart man. And I said, Mirek, that's unbelievable. And, my head was spinning a little bit when he said this. And I said, so basically, what you're saying is like, AstraZeneca and DuPont Pharma and these companies, they're, instead of having an aspirin or a heart medication, they may be dispensing music. And he said, yeah, you're on the right path. Yeah, that's where music's headed. Music is becoming a very, very, we got into like, well, would you sooner take, if there was a therapeutic option for a certain result, and you had, the difference was, taking a pharmaceutical versus taking a non-invasive, listening to a certain
side effect.
Let's say it was a certain rhythm, or it was a certain tone, tonal range, certain style, certain instruments, combined perhaps with narration or not, or my favorite music, which is God's music, which is the rustling of the trees, the sound of a brook, the sound of birds chirping, all of that. I look at that as that's God's orchestra. You bring, if you have all of those paints on your palette to affect the human brain, I think Mirek is actually right. I think that music as a medicine has been long overdue, and we actually probably had it and didn't know, but we may not have known what we are now finding out in terms of what affects what part of the brain, what sound, what tone, what rhythm, what style, where does that go and what does it do exactly, and how can we harness the power?
The important thing is to learn earlier on and to use that medicine, the music medicine, before you have a crisis. Mm-hmm. So you end up going through a bunch of traumatic events in your life, anxiety, whatever is ailing you, and at those times they land in a bucket eventually, and you hold that bucket, right? And then before you know it, you need an intervention like a pharmaceutical, right? And sometimes you do need that. Some people do need that.
Absolutely.
But you want to mitigate that result in the end of the bucket with music and other things that help your mind health along the way, so it doesn't end up in the bucket, right? And the second point I have to say is the first song I heard this morning, birdsong. I went outside and I went, birdsong. Mm-hmm. That's music.
Yeah,
right.
It is to me too, Mark. Yeah. I have 4 bird feeders at my house. I'm an
avid... You have bird orchestra.
I'm an avid birder.
Yeah, bird orchestra.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great having this conversation with you.
Thank you, Mark.
It's been decades in the making, and, it's finally we get to an end of... the last quarter mile of the life journey is like utopia and euphoria, and all the lights go on, right?
We were just lucky to find ourselves in music, weren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a gift.
Yeah, music is a gift.
Is a gift, right? Songwriting and playing music and creating music is a gift that's given from a higher power somewhere. I don't know whatever higher power everybody believes in, that's, awesome. But they've given us a gift of music, the earth, life. So, we need to take care of it, right? And that's part of the journey. But we don't realize it until the latter quarter century of our lives sometimes.
Yeah, too old, too soon, too smart, too late. Is that what you're saying, Mark?
100%. 100%. And I can't rewind
I won't disagree with you.
Yeah, I can't rewind that.
Thanks a lot.
A pleasure, my friend. Yeah.